Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm Gamesplaining the Palace of Mad King Ludwig. Last week I did videos on Between Two Cities of Mad King Ludwig. That one was the third in the trilogy, I guess. I don't know if they've ever called it that, but it kind of is a Mad King Ludwig trilogy. The first one is Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which I did video for some time back, and now I am doing a video for the Palace of Mad King Ludwig. This is the second one. It came out a couple of years back in 2017, I believe. So it's relatively new, but still, you know, in gaming terms, it's getting on. This one has been ignored, for want of a better expression. I think this actually deserves a much larger audience than it has. I think Castles of Mad King Ludwig deserves a much larger audience than I have seen it getting in recent years. The way this game plays is sitting and building a singular castle, a singular palace, if you will, with all the other players at the table. When you build a room, you put a marker on there to say, that's the room I've built. When that room gets all of its doors closed in, whoever has built that room will flip their marker over to say that is scored or that is whatever'd, and you'll get whatever is in the top corner. And that's kind of how the game plays. The game finishes when the moat matches up. I had a game of it last night with 4 players, and I found that it looked like the game was going to play. We were one square away from getting that moat to match up, or one moat piece, should I say, away from getting the moat to match up. But it didn't quite make it, and suddenly we kind of built out again because it took a little while to get into a spot where we were able to close that up. It almost felt like it probably did go too long simply because of that fact. But there was a bit of a to and fro of which bits to put in and how far to go out, and we found we only had like one door for a little while that we could actually build off and things like that. And that's actually not a bad idea or a bad thing to happen in this game. You'll find that it probably does happen, that you kind of get down to just having one door we can build from. As long as there's at least one door that you can build from, it's all okay. If you're about to close that one door out, you cannot put that piece in. The rule set on this particular game, the Palace of Mad King Ludwig, is relatively simple, but it's a little bit intricate at the same time. What I find with all of these Mad King Ludwig games is that the scoring and the kind of keeping ahead in the game is potentially difficult. You need to keep track of how many of each room you've put down, because it's quite a sprawling map that kind of just goes out and out and out. It can get difficult to keep track of that if you haven't kept track as you're going. So if you're someone who forgets to move things to mark how many times you've done something, then there's going to be some time at the end where you're kind of going through, oh, I forgot to move that one, I've got this many rooms. And look, it's probably worthwhile doing that anyway, just to double check, but it's a little bit hard to see which ones are which. We've got markers that are very much within 4 different shapes, and they're very easily seen within those 4 different shapes. But when you've got a sprawling board, it's actually really quite difficult to see and to count through, oh, I've got this many that room, this many that room. But as I say, it's a worthwhile thing to do just then, to just double check that you've got the right things sorted out. I think that all 3 games have their own space. They're all in the same world, they all have the same kind of concepts, but they're all definitely within their own space. I'm extraordinarily happy that I own all 3 of these games, because I fear that they're different. I feel that they're different. I feel that they're going to play differently with different groups. This one plays up to 4 players. Castle plays up to 4 players. Between Two Castles plays up to 7 players. So if I've got a bigger group, I'll go between. If I've got the smaller group, I'll go to one of these 2. This one uses more of the idea of almost co-opness. Like, because you're building on that same map, you're all working together. So if you put a room down that matches the colour of another room in terms of the doorway, so it's the colour of the swans, it matches that. Whoever owns the room that you're putting it next to and yourself will both get a swan. If you're just putting it next to yourself, then you'll get a swan and no one else will. Little things like that are actually a really good way to go. What I discovered, however, is that, especially on a 2-player game, not as badly on a 4-player game, but it was on a 2-player game, that there's a couple of the scoring things which were up at like 90 points or in that ballpark, and other scoring sections were just 3, 6, 12 points kind of down there. And that gap is really worth watching out for. I think that it's not a bad thing that it's there, I just think it's something that's worthwhile being aware of before you play. And when you're describing the game, or when you're trying to get when you're doing your gamesplain, shall we say, the ability for you to actually point those couple of things out is actually really important. So it's kind of vital for everyone to understand what the scoring is before they start playing this one. As I say, I like the game. It's a little bit of a headspace. It can move fairly quickly. It can be, oh, hang on, I need to stop and actually look and do the counting and all that stuff. And you'll find that the further into the game you get, the more people are doing that. And that's absolutely fine. So look, I'll leave it there. Go ahead and watch my Gamesplained and Gamesplanation to see if you like the game. If you have any comments or suggestions, write them below. If you have any games that you'd like to be Gamesplained, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.